Hello, friends, and welcome back to eHadley Write. Today, I wanted to dive into a little mini series here I wanted to do called Plan Your Novel in Notion. If you don't know what Notion is, it's a productivity app that you can find online. It's free. I think it's notion.io is how you get to it. Like, just Google it and you'll find it. There's about 1,000 videos on YouTube about how you can use this. Personally, I use it for things like meal planning, goal setting, tracking my reading journal. Everything I read, I use Notion instead of Goodreads or Storygraph or Fable or anything like that. If you're interested in seeing how I do that, I can cover that in another video. Just let me know. But today I wanted to show you how I use it to, track, plan, and organize my creative writing projects. So it's not the only tool I use for this. I have, you know, tons of notebooks, loose notes. I use my notes app on my phone. I have note cards, sticky notes. I throw spaghetti at the wall when I'm working on creative projects, just like the rest of you. But I do find Notion very helpful to kind of keep things a lot more organized. There's a lot of good features in Notion that can help keep track of certain things in your book, so you don't have to hold it all in your brain at the same time. You can kind of customize the way what you're looking at once easily, if that makes sense. Some of these features are built into Scrivener if you use something like Scrivener, which I do. I still prefer to put mine in Notion. It's just more intuitive for me than the Scrivener stuff. But I can dive into how I use Scrivener as well if anyone is interested in that. But today we are going to start building a scene card list in Notion. I'm going to break down the possibilities that I have kind of figured out and used myself, just kind of different options here. So it's going to be 4 videos, at least what I'm starting with here. The first one, I'm just going to teach you how to create your database. Then we're going to dive into the scene cards themselves. Then we're going to go through the different views you can set up for your database and what those are good for, how you can use them. And then we're going to build a traditional outline where you can see the full book, like basically all the detail of all your scenes in one place rather than having to click into each one of these. So those are the 4 different videos you can expect to see. And today we're just going to work on building the database. So this is what it's going to look like when it's all finished. These are, I like to think of, they're tiles, but I like to think of them as note cards. You can move them around if you in revision to see if they fit better somewhere else. And then there's also a table view where you can build a story grid if you use that kind of an outline or are interested in that. And there's also a Kanban board where you can track your progress on each of your scenes. So I just built a few scenes in here. This is based on my actual novel. So there's, I tried not to put any big spoiler things on here. These are just so you can have an idea of what yours can look like. I have way more scenes than this in my book. You don't even have to use scenes. You can use beats or chapters or whatever little chunk of story you think of your project in is absolutely, this can help you with it. So without further ado, if you're interested in seeing how to create this, stay tuned, subscribe if you haven't already and you'd like to follow along, and otherwise we're just going to get started. So when you first open Notion as a new user, you will probably have some templates over here, some suggested pages that Notion builds in for you. Do with those what you will. We are going to start completely from scratch by adding a new page. I think you can do that here, or I think up here as well you can choose page, or we're actually going to be using a database. So you can click here. There's also lots of templates for you to explore if you're new to Notion. That can be, I find them quite overwhelming. I like to build my things from scratch with exactly what I need them for in mind. So we're just going to go with add new here, and we are going to go with a database. And we are going to title this whatever you want. You can name yours, book title, and you can write scene list. So you could even do this for a whole series, and I can kind of show you how to do that as well. It's going to be quite large if you do that, obviously, but you can do it. So name it whatever is appropriate for your project. And then if you hover over the title, you'll see these up here. You can add a description, you can add a cover, which is like a picture that you have up here at the top, and you can add an icon. So you can see that I used this like folded map icon for my other example. You can change the color of the icon, by the way. And I'm gonna do a dark one for this. And let's go ahead, let's just do like grid squares. These are our note cards kind of symbol. Anyway, so you can choose an icon if you'd like. You can remove it if you'd like. I think you just click remove if you want to. Everything is customizable in Notion. So what I'm going to do is turn this, it starts as a table, but I'm going to turn this into a gallery because that is what I find the most useful. So you just click on the table thing, edit view, then we're going to layout, and I'm going to choose gallery. These are the other options you have, but we're just going to leave it. I'm not going to change anything else for now, and we're just going to start here. We have no tiles to work with, but we've got our workspace ready, right? You can rename this whatever you want. In the other one, I clicked rename and called it, what did I, oh, let me, actually, I'm going to pull it up in my other window here so I can look at what I have. Okay, so I called this view, let me get it, scene cards. And we can customize the stuff later as we build this out. So for now, and also you can change the icon here as well if you would like to. So we're going to go ahead and open up our first page. This is going to be our first scene. And for me, I like to use like little titles that explain what is in that scene. So you can do it that way. You could call it scene 1 if you want to. You could call this the hook if you want to just track it by like story beat. But like I said, I just use like some kind of descriptive title just for myself. Nobody else has to see this ever, so it's just for you. Now, where we start to customize this to you and your project and how you like to get organized, what you choose to add here is going to be dependent on probably what your project is and also how you like to work. So take what you will, leave what doesn't work for you. Try new things. It's not permanent. This is just a tool. Experiment if you'd like. It's absolutely fine. But I'm just going to show you a few things of what I like to do and some possibilities here. So the first thing I would actually recommend is to add a status property. Now this is going to give you an opportunity to turn this into a Kanban board. If you, we'll get into what that is if you're unfamiliar with it, but basically it's a progress tracking tool. So it's going to default to a not started category, an in progress category, and a done category. You can rename these and also change the color. So if you want to rename it, let's say I'd rather it say finished. Not that that's very different, but we can change that if we want to. And another one I'm going to write in here is, let's say, first draft. So once I'm done into my first draft, let's even change the color. Let's turn it purple for funsies. Okay, so once I get through all of my scenes and they all say first draft, then we can drag this up to the to-do section because we don't want it to be the first draft anymore. Now we're going to track our progress into the second draft is going to be what we're aiming for the next time. And let's turn that red. So that's kind of how you can use this customized to working on scenes, right? Again, do however you want it. But I do think it's helpful to have something like that in there. Next, we can do, I don't know about you, but in my current project, I have multiple POV characters. And to track that, I use a select property here. I'm going to use this. I'm going to name it POV. You can change the icon here as well. And I've been working on this recently, so all my little saved icons are here. I'm going to change it to this little person. And then I can either add my options down here. So I have a character named Annie. And then I also have a character named Nolan. And I'm going to type his name here to show you how you can add someone else. So once you type in the name, you hit enter, and it will create a new option here. If you don't like the color it comes up with, you can always go in here, edit the property, and then you can see these here. So you can edit the name if you change the name or change the color back in here. So he's my male lead and she is my female lead. Let's just do pink and blue, make it easy. Okay. So this actually is an Annie scene. And then Another thing you might have in your novel are multiple timelines. You can track that the same way. I'm going to add another select property because I'm not going to have more than one timeline at once. You may, in which case you can use a multi-select. We'll tackle that next. But I'm going to call this my timeline. And I'm going to change my icon. You don't have to change the icon, by the way. But I'm going to use this hourglass. And we are going to add in a past and a present, because that is what I have in my story. So this first scene is in the present. And then I also told you I would tell you about the multi-select. Now this is the same as select, except you can have multiple things selected at once. So one area you might use this in is for a setting. If you're tracking a setting, I'm going to use this little tree. And let's say the scene starts off on Main Street, but then they go to Annie's house. And so I can add both of those in here. So then when I'm in edits later on, I can use this to filter what are all the scenes that take place on Main Street and just look at those, or same with Annie's house or any of the settings. So that's how that could be useful. Next, I'm going to add in one for basically the part of story or the beat that we're on. And you can name this whatever you want. I don't actually use this myself in Notion anyways. I do think about these things while I'm planning my novel, but let's see, part of story. I can't talk and type at the same time, apparently. But let's say this, so this is our hook. Like I said, you could put that in the title if you want. You can put that here if you want, and you can keep it wherever you want. But just for the sake of example, we'll go ahead and add that here. The next thing you may want is to give yourself a due date. So there is a date property here. You can give yourself a due date. If you have a goal to have this particular scene done by the end of the week, we'll mark it as January 4th. And we can actually link this to Notion Calendar, which is a separate app, but it's interconnected. And you can get sent reminders on your phone or maybe email, I'm not sure. But definitely within your Notion dashboard, it'll send you a reminder when those are coming up. You can, it's custom. It's just like Google Calendar, where you can, if you want a 15-minute reminder, you want a 2-day reminder, you can set it however you want. But just so you're aware, you can do that. Another way you might use the date property is, let's say, last worked on or completed or something like that. The last time I worked on this scene was today, let's say. And that way why did that not work? Oh, my internet's going out. There we go. So you can have something like that, or completed first draft, or something like that. You can add multiple of the same kind, as many as you want. You can also, if you wanted to have this in your calendar but not necessarily see it right here, you could hide it when it's empty, or always hide that. That didn't work. Always hide. Okay, there we go. So then that will not show up here. You'll have to click down here to see the extra property. And then you can hide it back again if you'd like. So that's also a functionality. Now, a few more things I wanted to kind of demonstrate here. One thing that's kind of useful that annoys me is to have a number property that's either called something like order, or you could say chapter if you know exactly what chapter it's going to be in. I tend to say order. This is going to be helpful when we change views. Notion isn't going to know what order you had these in, so you have to say this is the first one. If you insert a scene later and you don't want to renumber everything, you can always put like 1.1 so that it'll fit in between 1 and 2. Just a little tip for you there, but it's a little less annoying than having to go through and change every single scene card. But there's that as well. So that's a helpful one. And then the other thing I want to add here, you can add a summary. I guess if you write long summaries, you may not want to do it as part of a property. There is a big section, basically unlimited room under here to write notes. We're going to build an actual scene card down here in the next video. But this is where I tend to use my space for summaries, but you can add a summary property up here. You would use the text property and then name it summary and go from there. What I am going to add here are the subplots in my book, because we are going to use those to build our story grid or our plot grid later. So I'm going to select a text property and I'm going to name it after one of my subplots. So I am writing a romance. I'm going to actually change my icon to a love heart, and I want to track that through all of my scenes. I want to see where is progress being made on this romance subplot. I'm going to also add a property for my Main Street plotline. Same thing. I'm going to give it a little icon for a road map, a road sign for Main Street. And then I also have another one I'm going to put in here. For example, I have more than this in my book because I'm crazy for subplots, but I'm going to put in the family secrets subplot as well. And I found a little icon I liked for that, this lock unlocked keyhole. So those are my 3 subplots, and I don't know why it's putting this all in random order. It kind of annoys me. So you can change these around if you so want to. So I'm going to get these. Timeline's kind of important. I want that at the top. I want status at the very top. POV gets to come way up here as well. And probably order is going to be here. Okay. So I'm pretty happy with that. Again, you can hide whichever ones you don't want to necessarily see when you open this every time. And there is a space to customize pages as well somewhere, customize layout. I haven't played around with that very much yet, but if you feel like it, you can always do that. So this is kind of there are other types of properties in here as well. This is really if you're working in a workspace, a Notion environment with more than one person, so you can assign this to like your assistant or something. So I don't think that's probably going to be very helpful. You can attach files and media. Perhaps if you have research materials that are useful, URL could also be useful for that. You could add a checkbox here to, if you want to track if you made, or if it was proofread or something. Has this been proofread? And then once it's been proofread, you check the box. Or it could be something like just completed. We have the status here, but sometimes it's nice to be able to filter really quickly with a box. Those are some possibilities. These are some more advanced ones up here, but you can definitely play around and see what you'd like to what is applicable for your project. So hopefully, even if you are already working with your novel in Notion, this might have given you some more ideas. But this is going to be where I wrap this up for today. Let's see. That's all we're going to cover in this week's video, but come back for the next in series where, again, we're going to go over building out the scene card down below, and we are going to build a template so that it populates for each new scene that you create, and you don't have to create it from scratch every time. And then we're going to go over the different views and how they can be helpful while you're working through your novel. And then again, building that big long outline so that you don't have to click into each one of these scenes in order to read the detail. It'll just be in one long form document. That can be a lot more helpful to get like the bird's eye view of each scene. So that wraps up today's video. If there's anything else you'd like me to cover about organizing your novel in Notion that you didn't kind of see in the plan here, just leave a comment below and I can do my best to address your specific needs or questions or confusion. I'm happy to help with that. Thank you as always for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button if you found any value in this video, and I will see you again next time. Ciao.